Hi, this is Krishna Iyer with the Iyer think tank in Delray Beach. This short podcast, we're going to again do the Iran war. We are going to, basically discuss the last events, the last 24 hours of events of the Iran war. I just want to go through, what really has happened. Donald Trump again is double speaking. I mean, he is a double speaker and a double thinker. He has, on this is today is day today is March 24th, so this is day 25, Iran war. But he is double speaking and double thinking across the board. I mean, we know this book. And I'm going to go through one more chapter in this book, Beyond Hypocrisy. And I actually have another book I just wanted to show. And, I will be going through periodically podcast of this one. This is The Washington Connection and Third World Fascism by Herman and Chomsky. It's a, excellent book on U.S., rogue-like murderous actions, from Vietnam to the death squads, torture chambers, and mass murder campaigns in South America. Their backing of Israeli brutality. Their backing of Vietnamese murder. Ruining the Indochina country. Their antagonism of the Soviet Union during the Cold War, and their obsession with communism, and all sorts of things that bring to light a lot of the things that the U.S. government now is really needing to be complained on. And I am saying that we need to get more people like Dr. Chomsky and Dr. Herman. Dr. Herman has passed away in 2017, but we need more people to go on a human rights survey the United States of America, because this nation is a racist group of, vicious gangsters, like hoodlums, that go around, oppressing all sorts of people in a colored and racist way. And, we really have to be careful. And, we need more people to research, write scholarly activity all across the world, not just in the United States. This is something that has to be done in other countries too. The U.S. will follow suit. Americans will follow suit. But if it starts, and it has to start somewhere, like, the Middle East, Europe, South America, or, Asia, somewhere this has to start. We have to rein in this, tyrannical group of fascists that promote mass murder across the world. And, it's a dangerous thing. It's not to be taken lightly. But I strongly recommend you buy this book. Very cheap book. It's only available in print. It's not available in ebook, of course, because, the U.S. government, puts all the, books that talk about its real activity, on the shelves. And, they replace it with double speak and double think Orwellian propaganda. And, that's what you're hearing now. All you hear is Orwellian propaganda by the Trump administration. So strongly recommend this book. I'll put the reference in the description section. If you want to buy it, I think it's a very worthwhile investment. Probably like $10 to $15 at eBay, but it's like a 400-page book. And it goes through Washington connections with third world fascism. It includes, I'll just give you like a few examples. It includes East Timor, the Indonesia mass extermination in Indonesia, the Thailand corrupt firm base, the murders in the Philippines, the Dominica, Latin American, and the Nazi parallel. Vietnam was, a good portion of it. Laos, Cambodia is another, thing. Post-colonial rot and permanent counter-revolution. It even goes through East Pakistan, the genocide and, tilting towards massacre by the U.S. government. Burundi, the limitations of U.S. power. The Indians in Latin America, the non-civilized, in the way of progress. And East Timor, genocide in the sly. So, I strongly recommend it. Washington Connection and Third World Fascism. So let's just get started. We're just going to talk, very briefly about, what's happening in the war today. Day 25. Donald Trump has claimed that he is speaking Discussions are ongoing with Iran to reach a broader peace agreement, stating that Iran means business. Okay, this is again doublespeak. This is Donald Trump double speaking. There has been no discussion. Iranian officials firmly rejected these claims, with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and paramilitary parliamentary leaders calling the statements fake news and a big lie. Iranian officials have accused the U.S. of fabricating these claims to manipulate global oil and financial markets and to buy time as more U.S. troops deploy to the region. So, Donald Trump is just, talking, lies and propaganda. He's a, double speaking Orwellian, propagandist, a magician of, fabrication. And, he is, lying again. The U.S. issued an ultimatum that, if they do not open up this Strait of Hormuz, that he would obliterate Iranian power plants if he failed to comply. The deadline has now been extended 5 days. So he is going to, become, a war criminal and, murder, just destroy the electrical grid in, Iran. Despite international pressure and severe economic fallout in Asia, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi reiterated the Iran stance on the Strait of Hormuz has not changed. U.S. motivations and political pressures. Neil Stanag, a White House columnist for The Hill, suggests that Trump may be looking for an exit ramp because the war has been domestically unpopular and is causing significant economic pain, particularly through rising oil and fuel prices. So again, this dabbler in the military arts, this novice of, military, maybe, just, dabbling, like the dabbler in, military, experimentation is, finding that it's, economically painful and he doesn't like it. So, that's the thing you got to think about before you go to war. I mean, before you bomb another country, and commit a crime of aggression, you got to think about these things in advance. And Donald Trump doesn't really think in advance. He, is an impulsive, liar. He's an impulsive liar, and a racist, butcher, a racist anti-Muslim butcher. And that's what America looks like. They look like just anti-Muslim butchers that just want to murder Muslims. That's really what it is. And, you got to be, aware. Pro-government rallies, Iranian suspicion and strategy. The reporting from Tehran, Al Jazeera's Mohammed Val noted that Iranian officials and state media are firmly projecting what he describes as the power of defiance. Val explained that Tehran harbors deep suspicion regarding any messaging from Washington, viewing Trump's claims of peace talks as maneuvering aimed at winning time. That is correct. I would agree with Abachi's statement that, Donald Trump is buying time as his aircraft carrier goes to the Middle East, to bomb the Strait of Hormuz or do whatever they plan on doing. Maybe the Marines will try to take over the Iranian coastline. But, I strongly urge everyone to be aware that this war is, not over. And Donald Trump is, just buying time by these, double speak propaganda that, is giving the Iranian people, misleading. It's giving the public, the media, misleading, narratives. And, that's all this war is. It's a propaganda show by, a criminal of the U.S. government, a deranged criminal of the American government, a criminally deranged individual, Donald Trump, of the U.S. government. There are pro-government rallies taking place despite heavy rain and threats of a bombardment. Large crowds of pro-government demonstrators gathered in Tehran and other Iranian cities to denounce the United States and Israel. Pakistan and Iranian leaders have spoken. Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said he had spoken with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on the grave situation in the Gulf region and promised Pakistan was committed to playing a constructive role in advancing peace. And, again, there's a new tabulation, over 1,000 killed in Lebanon. That's, what we're at, 1,500 in Iran. Pretty much, there's, many injured in Israel, 18 killed in Israel, UAE, 8 killed, 160 injured. So 61 were killed in Iraq. That's the next. So, many of the other places is, there's many different, places that there are attacks. Following Trump's claim of productive conversations with Tehran, the White House has pushed back against speculation regarding an imminent deal. White House Press Secretary Karen Leavitt cautioned that the situation is fluid and stated that speculation about meetings should not be deemed as final until officially announced. Iran is denying any claims of discussion with Iran on peace talks. So this is all propaganda by the U.S. government. It's just, magicians that are making stuff up and, just misleading the public while they buy time to get their forces in there and try to, take the Strait of Hormuz. The Correspondence Corridor of the U.S. Department of Defense is closing and relocating press offices to an unnamed annex. This decision comes after district court struck down Trump administration's new press credential rules, which would have required journalists to sign agreements promising not to publish classified or unauthorized information. Threat level is raised in Mauritania. The U.S. Embassy in Mauritania has issued an elevated threat notice for American citizens and embassy staff due to the recent threat of terrorist strikes. And, Israel's attacks on Lebanon, we know that there were attacks on the southern suburbs. Israel has warned the area to evacuate. Hezbollah infrastructure is being targeted by Israel. The escalation described was a significant one as Israel expands its ground operations and destroys vital infrastructure such as bridges. Hiddo stresses that this strategy is trapping civilians and making it extremely difficult for the Lebanese armed forces to deliver humanitarian aid to the more than 1 million people displaced by the war. So this is continuing. This slaughter of civilians by the Israeli government is continuing in Lebanon. Syria's army said Monday that one of its bases in the northeast was hit by a missile from neighboring Iraq. Military officials strikes in Iraq. The U.S. military launched a strike in Iraq's Anbar province on the headquarters of Iran-backed armed group. They were looking for Saad Dawai. It's unclear whether they got him. Nicholas Hack, reporting from Baghdad, characterized Iraq as a secondary battleground where the U.S. and Iran-backed groups are battling out. Hack noted that the U.S. was engaging deliberate but calibrated targets against leaders of the Iran-aligned groups, leaving the Iraqi people caught in the crossfire. Finally, oil energy markets, stranded ships in South Korea in turmoil. The closure has highly affected South Korea, which relies on Middle East for more than 70% of its oil. The crisis forced the South Korean prime minister to cancel a trip to China to deal with the domestic economic fallout. Japan's energy emergency. The situation is also dire for Japan, as nearly 95% of the country's oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz. Targeting Hormuz is economic terrorism. The chief of UAE's state energy company, ADNOC, slammed Tehran's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, which has caused a surge in oil prices as economic terrorism against every nation. So you can see that Japan and South Korea are facing major problems as a result of this, oil closure of the Strait of Hormuz, and the U.S. is, of course, propagandizing and pretending that, they are, doing something that's, effective in this war. Let's continue. We're not going to be doing any articles anymore. I've decided to focus on book reads. I think it's excellent. This is, again, the Beyond Hypocrisy book. Again, it'll be in the discussion section. I strongly recommend these books to be, purchased. We're going to be doing chapter 4. All right, this is going to be chapter 4. Which is repelling naked aggression and upholding the sanctity of international law in the Persian Gulf. So basically, the Bush administration basically had directed, rather than money into education and infrastructure, he diverted capital and technology into war making. Continued Reagan-era policies that seemed deliberately designed to undermine long-term productivity and competitiveness. Bush's preoccupation with the Gulf is, discussed. Basically, we use a novel, Charles Dickens' novel, Bleak House. The greatest energies organizing other do-gooders to help and straighten out the poor natives of a place called Borna Bulaga in Africa, while her own family was neglected. resentful and pathetic. A difference between Mrs. Jelby and George Bush as models of misplaced priorities, however, is that Mrs. Jelby meant well and at least not seriously harm the recipients of her ill-conceived charity. The mainstream media had noted Bush's, basic war making and, in the immediate aftermath of the war. And, this book is largely on, being disgusted with the American media. The mainstream media of the United States peddles lies. It peddles doublespeak. It is, complicit with the U.S. government on all its agendas. So anything you hear from the American media, just, put it away. Okay, I hate to say it, but reading the American media means you are a patriot. If you read the American media, you are assuming that you are a patriot. And if you don't like it, then you're wasting your time, okay? You never want to read the American media. It's just a waste of time. Anything that comes out of the American media is complicit with the U.S. government. The U.S. government and politicians double check what the media writes and they agree with what they say, and then it's released. So, just put it away. If you are not a patriot, put the American media away and read books. That's the best way to know what America has done in the past so that you can, anticipate what they'll do in the future. I mean, people will say, well, if I don't look at the media, then how am I going to know what they're doing? You don't really need to know what they're doing. If you know what they did before, if you know what they did in the Iraq war, you know what they're doing now. Okay, they were killing, innocent people in Iraq. They're killing innocent people now. You could just make the inference, and you don't really need to, read the news for that. There are stations, there are certain, news media programs that are accurate. I use Al Jazeera. I think there are, Xinhua is another one. Japan Times is another one. Many of the Asian and Middle Eastern media sources are accurate. Even South American ones are accurate. But if you look at the mainstream media, just stay away from it. It's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. It just reflects the American and the Western hegemonies need to, double speak and double think. So continuing on, so I am going to just stop for a second because I have to, I'm going to continue this in a second podcast so that I'm just going to double check my my video. But I'm going to continue this, so I will come back on, and it'll be part 2 of the same podcast. I'll put all the links in the discussion section. Krishna Iyer with the Iyer Think Tank in Delray Beach. Have a great day.